Hi, my name is Alexis Arceo, and I'm a principal certification candidate at Lamar University. I'll begin with the campus demographics for where I completed my activity. There are 1,092 students on campus. There are 2 grade levels, 5th grade and 6th grade. The student ethnic makeup, 1.6% of students are African American, 56.1% of students are Hispanic, 40.3% of students are white, 1% of students is American Indian, 0.2% of students are Asian, and 2 or more races is 2.9% of the student population. As far as the faculty, there are 99 faculty members. The faculty have anywhere from 0 years of experience to over 20 years of experience. Beginning teachers with 0 years of experience make up 12.4% of the faculty. Teachers with 1 to 5 years of experience make up 35% of the faculty. Teachers with 6 to 10 years of experience make up 11.7% of faculty. Teachers with 11 to 20 years of experience make up 30.7% of faculty. Teachers with 20 plus years of experience make up 10.2% of faculty. There are several student academic issues of concern because there are so many students who are economically disadvantaged, and because there are so many students who have over 3 weeks of absences every academic year. They are getting further and further behind. So one large issue of academic concern is RTI students. Are they receiving the services? Dyslexia students, are they getting an appropriate amount of reading time in class, and are they getting the dyslexia services that they need? Will they be ready for graduation? Will they meet the college readiness standards? And will they be ready for STAR at the end of the year? These are all major concerns on campus because of the student population. Like I said, there are so many students with low SES. There are a lot of parents and students with drug and alcohol use. And there are a lot of students who simply cannot make it to school because they need to stay home to watch their brothers and sisters. They need to help their parents at work. They're responsible for not only their siblings but also for themselves, and so if they miss the bus, then they have no way to get to school. If a sibling is sick, then they are expected to stay home to take care of them. These are major issues of concern regarding the students on campus. I interviewed my principal and I interviewed my assistant principal regarding the master schedule planning for this year. I chose to interview my principal and my assistant principal regarding planning the master schedule for this year. I felt like I would learn a lot from this process because this is a new school that is just opening, and so they are not only creating the master schedule for this year, but they're actually starting from scratch. They're creating a whole new master schedule, and so it was very interesting to get insight from them about where they started in the process, what they looked at as far as looking at other campuses with the similar grade levels and similar things that they wanted, and I felt like I would learn a lot for when I'm an assistant principal or a principal as far as areas of concern, like regarding lunches, regarding specials, regarding transition times, regarding special education, and all the students getting all the services they need in a day, and all students getting the required PE time, the required recess time, the required lunch time. And I feel like both the principal and the assistant principal really had some valuable insight to share. I also am on the foundations team for our school, which is creating all of the procedures and some of the scheduling for the beginning of the year. So I also filmed part of that meeting as well. The first administrator that I interviewed was Dr. Tara Vandermark. She has over 16 years of experience planning a master schedule, and then I also interviewed the person who helps her the most, which is our assistant principal, Kendall Doucette, who has over 10 years of experience creating master schedules and revising master schedules. I chose these leaders because they're the ones who not only create the master schedule at the beginning of the year, but if there are any problems that arise, which being that it's a new school, there will probably be some revisions that need to take place. They're the first contact for those revisions, and they both had a lot of really great insight to share.
Hi, my name is Alexis Arceo, and this is my principal, Dr. Tara Vandermark. She's going to be answering some questions today about scheduling the master plan for this year. If you could just start by telling me what the process was like. She is in the process of getting ready a new school that's not even completely built yet, Setchville Elementary, so I'm sure the process was especially had its own unique challenges this year.
Yeah. So what we had to do is I've done a master schedule for a K-4 campus, which is a lot more simple. And then I've done a 5-6 campus, which is a lot more complex. And so then bringing both of them together for a K-6 campus has its unique challenges. We've got kids who are self-contained. We've got kids who are departmentalized in 2-man teams or 3-man teams. And then we've got 7 grade levels trying to fit them in for specials. And so it's been just really unique in its challenges in trying to fit everything into a 7-hour day.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
How many years have you been a principal?
I've been a principal for 16 years.
Okay, so you've been creating the master schedule then for probably more than 16 years.
Yeah, probably. And as an intermediate campus, one of our assistant principals really took control of the master schedule. She has that mind for unique schedules and how we have to create everything. So she's been a big help with the past 5 years.
Okay. Were there specific challenges this year as far as relating to maybe like specials or special education or lunches? And can you describe some of maybe the challenges that you ran into?
The first way we looked at our schedule, we had lots of cards and we had to shuffle everything around and see how it would fit. But ideally it started with lunch because of the way we do our duties. Classroom teachers cover lunchroom and recess duties. And so we have to have one group at recess at the same time we have the same group or a different group at lunch, and then they have to switch. And so that's for recess duties. But then at the same time, we have to make sure there's not too many kids in the cafeteria and not too many kids on the playground. And so we've got 2 recess areas, one for the smaller kids, one for the bigger kids. And so we could use that when we're kind of trying to place things out. But it took a lot of time to figure out, do we do a 15-minute gap interval to where we have a group of kids come in, 15 minutes later we have another group of kids come in, and then how that looks on the playgrounds as well for safety issues.
Yeah.
So we started there. Once we had all the lunches placed out, we looked at specials. The goal was to have everybody have a 60-minute planning time. We've looked at 50. We've looked at 65, could not fit 65 in, can't make that happen. So we were able to do 60 minutes, but 4 grade levels are combined into 2 separate specials times. So 5th grade is by themselves, 6th grade is by themselves, and 2nd grade is by themselves. K1 is together and 3-4 is together. And so then we have to look at, now I've got 2 grade levels going to specials at the same time. What do the numbers look like? And because of that, we had to add another staff member in PE to accommodate that many kids in PE at one time.
So are you hiring another?
Well, we hired a PE aide.
Oh, okay.
And so then there's three adults in there. And that should be able to accommodate the kids that we put in PE at that time.
So
always that's a tough one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We actually had like a similar issue last year at our school where in the middle of the year they realized that they didn't have enough in PE, and it actually caused them to, in December, they revised the whole master schedule.
Oh, wow.
I mean, like everyone's schedule was like nothing stayed. So have you ever had to do that at a school where there's been like such a significant issue that you've had to revamp like the whole thing?
No.
Okay.
We've never had to do that. We've had to make a few adjustments to the schedule, but never to that point. And what we typically do, now I've never been in the situation where I've created a brand new schedule. I've always gone into a campus, my first time at a brand new campus. We've always taken the campus schedule, the master schedule, and talked to teachers and said, what did you really like about the schedule? What didn't you like about the schedule? And then we made adjustments that way. So in the past, I've never had to do it. I'm not saying that this year we wouldn't have to do it, but what we're going to do is that first day of school, we'll get together and say what was like glaring a problem, and we'll fix those right away. I don't foresee huge issues with the schedule. We may have to tweak a few things, and my biggest concern is around lunch and recess, making sure that we don't have too many kids in one place at one time.
Okay. When you talked about like, you know, that there have been minor things that you've had to tweak throughout the year, how do you go about presenting that to the staff or saying like, you know, we do have to make this switch, and have you faced any like, you know, resistance or like negativity regarding those changes, and how do you make it a positive?
Usually when there's an issue, we get like a team leader group together, but there's representatives from all the groups together, and we look at what the problem is. In the past, really, they have not been significant issues. It's just been a timing issue more than anything. One of the things we have not added to our schedule this year that I have added in the past are transition times.
Oh, really?
And so in the past, say we have like specials starts at 8 o'clock, let's say 8 to 9 o'clock, then their instruction time wouldn't start until 9:05. Or even between first period and second period, we might end it 3 minutes early, so there's time for transition. What I found, or what we found, is that when you put a transition time in there, teachers naturally will build transition times into their day. And so if their time, say, you know, we have a class that starts at 10 and we put a transition time in at 9:55, they're going to start cleaning up at 9:50.
So they have like double.
Yeah, so they expand their transition time, and it really became evident one day. I had a visitor on campus and everybody was transitioning at the same time, even though their times were not the same, because they built those natural transition times in there. I'm not saying this is ideal, not adding transition times in there, but it's interesting how you really make the most of your time. If you switch class, so one class ends at 9:30, the other one starts at 9:30, typically teachers wrap up at 9:28 and they're out the door at or a minute before 9:30, and then they're starting at 9:31. So there's a natural 3 to 4 minute transition in there, and so it still allows you to make the most of your time.
Right. And here, will it be like, you know, when the classes switch at, for example, 9:30, there's a bell that rings, and then
no
bell?
No, and that was something we used to have bells at my last school when we had 4-man teams, because everybody rotated at the same time. Now, because, well, especially at Suchma, I've got self-contained teams, 2-man teams, and 3-man teams, so nobody has the same schedule. And so the way that I put the schedule out, I've got first and second, or kindergarten first and second are fine because everybody's self-contained, so they all have the same schedule. In 3rd grade, I have a 2-man schedule and a 3-man schedule. I have a 2-man and a 3-man for 4th grade, 5th grade, and 6th grade. And so I don't know what our bells will be like. We're a brand new school, so we may have the capability that I could bring bells in just 3 classrooms.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, then for sure we'll set that up. Otherwise, we've always just recommend teachers, everybody get your cell phones out, everybody set your timers for what time you feel like you guys can transition, and then you set those procedures in place to make it happen, go quickly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you have any, like, if I were a new principal and I was just doing a master schedule for the first time, of course it probably wouldn't be like a new campus, like you're saying, it would probably be revising. Are there any recommendations that you would make where to, like, okay, we always start here? For example, you said starting at lunches.
Yeah.
Kind of from lunches and recess, where's kind of the next place that you go?
So from lunch and recess, we look at specials, and we've got to fit that in there. And then once we get those in there, we put out minutes. So again, K1 and 2 is a lot easier because they can break up their schedule how they want because they're self-contained. Once you get into 3rd grade, you have to look at how many minutes are before lunch and recess, how many before and after specials, so that you're not stuck with 10-minute, little 10-minute sections for the next block. And we do have a couple of spots in our schedule where there is maybe 10, 15, or 20 minutes, and those are not ideal times. However, we feel like if we do the transition, they can get adjusted, they can maybe do their warm-up, get their workout, get ready to go, and then go to whether it's specials or lunch or recess. So that's a big one to look at. But for new principals, I would recommend definitely meeting it with the teams. And you sit down and you look at it and you say, what did you love about your schedule? What do you not love about your schedule? What are some easy things we can change? And then if those things gel with what you think you want to do, then you're really moving forward with what the teachers want, and they feel like they have a voice. So that's the big thing.
I like that collaboration, because then it's not, it's a shared responsibility. It's a shared decision.
Yeah.
Do you mind telling me, since I wasn't at the meeting for the master schedule, who participated on the committee for the master schedule this year?
So for this year, for the master schedule, so far it's just been the administration team.
Okay.
And so
that includes the counselors.
It does typically include the counselors, but we have a brand new counselor this year, and so we didn't include her in that initial process. So it's been just the administrative staff, and ironically, our secretary always has a lot of knowledge as far as schedules, so we included her in on that, and our 2 assistant principals.
Okay.
And so we put the foundations out, and so we're pretty much ready to send it out to the staff to review and see what they think about it, and then we'll take their suggestions from there and see if we have to make some further tweaks to the schedule. And pre-K is a completely different schedule because they have 2 classes during the day. And so there's a morning time and an afternoon time, and there's not enough time in their day for her to do a lunch and planning time because it overlaps with her classes.
Oh, wow.
And so we have to get creative in that scheduling and how we do like recess at the end of their class period, so that teacher can go to planning, and then we have staff on duty to cover their recess, and then to dismiss them, and then to bring in a new group. We have staff that come in, bring the new group of students in, take them through lunch, and then take them to recess, and then the teacher comes back and picks them up. And so it's a crazy schedule, but
so are those all
we'll make it work.
paraprofessionals coming in during that time?
Yeah, to
Okay.
cover recess and
Okay.
lunch. Yeah.
And if there ever is like a scheduling thing like that comes up in the middle of the year, are paraprofessionals allowed to cover classes by themselves, or do they have to be with another?
They're not supposed to.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always supposed to be a teacher, a professional staff member, and so and I know that sometimes happens in the intermediate world, not so much in the elementary world, and so one of the things we do to combat that is if, say, you're absent and you don't have a sub, and you're, say, a second grade teacher, you've got 22 kids, then they have a list of how to split their classes. And that's worst case scenario. But that's going to another second grade teacher, they're still gonna get good instruction, even though they, that's not their regular teacher.
Right. Well, thank you so much for answering all my questions. Do you have any other information that you feel like is really important for me to know?
I think you really have to spend a lot of time on the master schedule, and once you get one that's running really well, and you can continue to use the same schedule, then that's fine. But each year you have to revise it and look and see those things that didn't work. But then also you have to look at who gets the beginning of the day specials and the end of the day specials, and kind of continuously look at those. If people love having it at the middle of the day, and that's fine, nobody else wants it, then that's fine. But if people are like, that's not really fair, I want the end of the day specials, you have to look at that and see if we need to make those rotations each year.
Yeah, that was an issue when I worked at the junior high. My whole team really wanted, the end of the day. They were like, we just want the end of the day special. And then the year that I left, they got it.
Oh yeah.
They were like, we're so happy. But I know that's nice that you really value the teacher feedback, and you value them being happy with their schedule, because that makes a really big difference in a day that's so jam-packed, like when your conference period is, and when you have time to go to the bathroom, it does make a big difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, no problem.
Let me stop this. Let me see how. All right. So this is Kendall Doucette, and she's the assistant principal at Suchma Elementary, and she was very key in helping to create the master schedule for this year since Suchma is a new school, and we're creating, I'm assuming everything was created from scratch.
It did.
So can you speak a little bit about creating the master schedule, what challenges you faced, things that you really needed to prioritize for the new school?
One of the things I've done is I've almost always done it for a 5th and 6th grade school.
Okay.
So my biggest challenge was what to do with pre-K through 6th grade.
Yeah.
And how to get everybody's needs and what they, needed and wanted into a schedule that kind of fit everybody. So it started with what is our goal in a schedule, what needs to work, and we started with fine arts to figure out how to get. We knew our goal was to get 60 minutes because, especially for 5th and 6th, you've got to do 30 minutes of like a band or an orchestra, and then 30 minutes of PE. So that was kind of the biggest pieces. You started with, we needed an hour for each grade level to do a fine art. With that, then you needed, you can't do just 5th and 6th grade at an hour, so now everybody needs, so that they, otherwise 5th grade teachers have an hour of conference and 2nd grade has a 45 minutes, so you can't, that doesn't work out very well.
Right.
So we worked on kind of a schedule that had to put each of those in. The other thing that we wanted to add was the active start.
Right.
And an extended learning time. So we have the active start so that teachers can do planning, the collaboration time, and then an extended learning time, and I'm not sure if that's what we'll end up calling it, but
like small groups and
where we can work on small groups, we can hit RTI things, we can do like enrichment, some of our GT projects and some of those things can be done during that same time. We can do, if you've had a kid who's been out for a week, we try and help get some work made up. So it's just kind of a time where we can actually focus on what each kid is needing. So that was kind of the biggest goal, was how to put all of those things in. And then you build in lunch and recess for 7 grades,
That's a lot.
and making sure you don't have too many on a playground at once. You don't have too many, that cross paths, who's in specials, who's not. You like making sure the PE and fine arts teachers have their conference, their lunch, kind of thing. The other thing we try to do is back up 5th and 6th grade specials together, so that the band and the orchestra teacher wouldn't have to do, and even some of the older grade level art, music, you get those things out for that amount of time. And it's not like you do 5th grade, we've got all our instruments out. And then we go, here come the first graders, and then we have to get sing back out again later. So we try to build those back to back. Because then those same teachers for the afternoon will now teach, band doesn't teach band to 1st and 2nd graders.
Right.
They'll have to transition and teach a different type of music or something else.
Oh, okay.
So we did, that was one of the things we tried to keep in.
Yeah.
And then tried to build in the fact that it does, some of the littler ones need a little bit more break time in the afternoons instead of, balancing out just timing so that they have instruction first and they get a lot of that in, and then they have a little bit of break, and then we get another chunk of instruction. So you didn't want, 20 minutes here, 30 minutes here.
Not those weird.
You want some really good time.
You talked about the RTI being a little bit in the beginning for the active start. Is that when RTI will predominantly fit in the master schedule, or will that have to be at other times?
It'll probably have to be at other times as well. We can do it during the ELT. That's 4 days a week. We'll also have to fit probably, I don't know if we can do everybody, but dyslexia will be in there.
In the active start?
Not in active start, but they're like in the ELT time.
Okay,
if we can, but that's only one group, and I'm sure we have multiple groups. So
that's always a challenge, the dyslexia scheduling, right?
It is.
Because do you even have the levels yet to be able to?
We do. We have a set of, I haven't really spent time looking at it, but yeah, we do have a set of who's getting dyslexia and what level, what group they're working in.
I see.
And then the same thing will have to happen with special ed. Who needs resource time, who needs...
Is that done yet?
No. We have a a list of who's
Okay.
getting what,
Okay.
but we haven't been able to figure out who's
Like co-teaching and who's
right.
in the okay.
right, because we don't know. We've just now accumulated everybody's schedule page, because when they did rollover last week or whatever,
Mhm.
now we're able to access all of those kids and get what their schedules are.
Services are. And, okay.
So RTI will be, a lot of it will be during ELT, because then it's not necessarily coming out of another
Right.
classroom, and it depends on which tier. You know, RTI, some of them can come out of the classroom, but you don't want
That's what the goal.
all of it, right? And
Yeah.
you in the level 3, you know, deep instruction is going to be different than, you know, if we have some that can just we can push into the classroom and do
Right.
a little bit of work there.
Mhm.
So it's just going to depend.
Okay. Okay. If there are, I mean, I'm sure being a new school, there will be challenges that, or changes that need to happen at the beginning, the middle of the year. And is that are you kind of the front person? Like, does it come to you first, or how does that work? when
Probably it
you're-
would either be Miss Vandermark or I. Just,
Okay.
I mean, and we'll, you know, as we see it, it's like, okay, we need the feedback on
Mhm.
what's working, what's not working.
Mhm.
How can we help, you know, facilitate or fix something?
Mhm.
And I don't want it to have to go an entire 9 weeks or an entire
Right.
year and go, okay, that was horrible, that didn't work.
Right.
Well, if it's not working,
And
let's
so,
fix something that works for everybody.
do you ask the staff for like feedback consistently at the beginning, or how does
I think
that
we
work?
definitely will, especially
Okay.
because this is a new one.
Yeah.
You know, last year, pretty much, or the last couple of years, anything that was, like I said, I knew the building and I knew the staff and I knew how it kind of rolled every time, and it wasn't really difficult to do like the actual timings. What was
Mhm.
more difficult on that end was probably the special ed piece, because you had kids changing all the time.
Yeah. Mhm.
All of a sudden now we need, this kid needs resource and that kid needs resource and that kid, okay, well now what am I going to do, because I don't have a body to do
Right.
that, so you have
Stephanie
to move
was-
that kind of stuff around, and you're like, oh my gosh, that class went from like 1 to
That's what
7.
she said. She said she started with like 6, and by the end she had like 12, and I was like, that's a big difference.
It just depends.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's the kind of flexibility that we've got to be able to have
Right.
all the way through.
Right.
But, you know, if first grade's like, okay, this kid is killing us, you know, what
Yeah.
can we do?
Well, I love that that's your attitude going in, because we need that
Yeah.
feedback with a new school.
We
you
do,
know?
and that's, I think that's in every procedure we're about to
Mhm.
we're about to do.
Right.
We may get to day 3 and go, yeah, nope, that's not working.
Right.
And that's
Uh-huh.
okay.
Right.
We just have to figure out what works. And we've looked at schedules from the other K6s in the district.
Oh, okay. That's probably really helpful.
It is, but every one of them's doing
Different.
different. And some of them, there were some things in them that we really wanted to either avoid, or there were some that even those principals were like, oh, we don't see another way to do this.
I see.
So
Mhm.
there were pieces that we took, I think, from some, and then
Mhm.
just sat down and started creating.
How many K through 6 campuses are there that you had to kind of like look, just, you know?
There's 3 others.
There's 3 others, okay. And I asked Dr. Vandermark this, but I was at a school last year where in December they sat us down and they said, we're redoing the entire master schedule. And it was literally like, nothing was the same. Everything was different. Kids had to relearn their whole schedule when they came back from Christmas break.
That'd be
And I was wondering, has that ever happened at a school where you've worked, or have you ever had to, were you in a
No.
position like that? No.
No,
Okay.
usually it's pretty.
Yeah,
the-
it's a big change
yeah.
for kids and staff too. Okay, I was just curious. And if you were, recommending, like, if I was an assistant principal or a principal starting at, it probably wouldn't be a new school, but it was my first year, where would you say, like I like that you said you looked at other campuses' schedules in this instance, where would you say to start? Like, or, you really need to be careful about this, or really pay attention
Right.
to this.
I think you have to start with getting feedback on what is working.
Okay.
And then you have to, what is your goal? Like I said,
Mhm.
some of our goals, last year our schedules were, everybody was 5th or 6th grade, so
Mhm.
the fine arts wasn't a big deal. This time it is a bigger deal,
Right.
because
And that is where you,
and like the elementaries, I think rotate, they didn't go to some of those every day. They, went for
Right.
45 minutes to each one or whatever,
Right.
so I think that makes a difference.
Yeah.
So you gotta, what are your goals?
And getting that feedback from the
Yeah.
teachers and the staff.
Mhm.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I really
Sure.
appreciate you answering all my questions.
And we'll see if it works.
Okay, so, thank y'all for coming this morning, and hopefully then you have your whole day after. Kelly has to leave for a doctor's appointment in about 25 minutes, and so we'll get started. And Alexis is doing a project for her principal certification, so that's why she's videotaping, and probably nobody but her professor will really even, well, he might even go like, okay, it's all there.
Pretty much.
Check.
Yeah.
So anyway, she would like, if you wouldn't mind everybody just going around and introducing themselves, just say your name and your what you're doing, etc.
Yes, I'm Stephanie Laird, and I'll be teaching special ed 4th through 6th grade.
I'm Alexis Arceo, special ed 4th through 6th grade.
Julie Monks again, the 4th grade.
Tara Vandermark, principal.
Erin Borghese, 5th grade math and science.
Abby Easter, kindergarten. Kelly Garvin, assistant principal.
Alyssa Barker, 30 late.
And our assistant principal is going to be walking in, and our counselor too. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. All right, so
Jeff has some of her.
oh yes,
Sorry, I didn't realize it was on there.
that's okay. Thank you. I'll move this out of here. All right, so when Kendall and Kelly and I started talking about handbook and things like that, you know, one of the nice things about our foundations team. Good morning. You
Morning,
get to
guys.
go down to the other.
Oh, I get to look at you.
And we're recording for Alexis, so, but it's just going to the professor, so it's okay. Just little snippets. So we, you know, foundations is supposed to look at one procedure and improve upon it, and since, of course, we have no procedures, we started just writing down everything, and one of the things when we can get into the building, as soon as we can start getting into the building, and, you know, Kim has been involved with it too, but, is walk it, you know, like, we'll sit there with the map and we have a great idea of what we think is gonna happen, and we just don't know till we get in there. And so, what we can do, we can do a couple of different things. We can just go, and I know you guys have all looked over them. You know, Tracy had emailed a couple of questions, which I didn't answer, I'm sorry. We can go through all of them. If we wanna hit one particular one and make sure we have that nailed down, we can do that. What are y'all's thoughts?
I think some of my questions was around like just not knowing what the master schedule would be, and so my thinking was on like, you know, like all of the kids going into the library in the mornings
Oh, yes,
on
that's right.
the active start days.
Yes.
I didn't know what the active start dates were, like if there's multiple grade levels coming on one day,
Okay.
and then they're all going to the library until 8. That might be a lot of students.
Yes, and so what I think what our plan is, and a lot of times we don't, and it's gonna be different, because it's a neighborhood school, and I'm not used to that as much as what we're gonna have now. But typically, we don't get kids showing up right at 7:30, 7:35. They trickle in, and so them knowing, and once they get into the routine and they know that Active Start actually officially starts at 8, it's gonna be really short. I think you'll still get that trickle in. We talked to the librarian over at Clark, and she said that they don't put a limit. You know, we were gonna put a limit on how many kids go into the library, but they've never had to put a limit on, because it's spread out enough. There's like 3 different sections, and our library is the same way, and so she said they haven't had to put a limit on it. So we're gonna have to kind of figure that out as we go. And so I'm not quite certain. We haven't picked the grade level days yet. I mean, we can make it easy and go K6 or 6K. So we have an idea of the days, but I think it's 3-4 is on one day and 5-6 is on one day. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at doing. We did roll over, and right now we are at, let me tell you what we're at. We're at 718, which is gonna grow, but that's about 100 kids per grade level. In fact, 5th grade is the biggest. Yeah, at
That's surprising.
it's at 129 right
It's
now,
always been a big class though.
which is pretty close to another teacher.
Still
So, I don't know, second grade's pretty small. Second grade's pretty small.
I saw that.
Uh-huh.
That they were the same as everybody else. They're all at like 104, 106.
So we had a teacher resign, her husband got transferred, and so that was a second grade position. Not part of this committee, but I'm thinking maybe we should sit on that, because it could potentially be a fifth or a sixth grade position. Yeah, fifth grade is significantly bigger. It's like 20 bigger than anybody else right now.
And sixth grade was the smallest, wasn't it?
Kindergarten's the smallest, but that grows in August. Sixth grade has 89 kids right now.
But sixth grade, were they given the choice of staying at their home campus, like the campus they were at?
Yes, actually, all of them were for the most part. So that's why fourth grade is a little bit smaller, sixth grade is a little bit smaller, and then siblings can stay for the year too. So
But I don't think that many were staying.
I didn't get too many.
Okay.
No, I haven't got too many. In fact, I got a lot of additions because of people who work here. Their kids go to Hauser or Oak Ridge or Kaufman, and so now a lot of them are gonna go to Suchma, which would be great for them. So, okay. Well, we can just start working through it, and then we can talk about master schedule as we go through as well. So, we looked at arrival. Everybody will be, of course, entering the front doors that arrive by car, walkers, bikers, those will come through the front door. Right now, we're anticipating opening the front doors at 7:35 every morning. We went back and forth about what time, we kind of settled in the middle at 7:35. We'll have breakfast in the cafeteria till 7:55. And then if kids come in, if they're going, I didn't know what to call it, so right now we're calling it pre-active start. I don't know, the waiting area, I don't know. And then we talked about, there's so many kids, and we've got big kids and we've got little kids, so we thought we would try and map out which way everybody goes to get to where they need to be. And so we'll look at it and see if we need to change things as we go along. Second, third, and fourth, we'll go down the back hallway, and then fourth grade will use those back stairs to go upstairs. And then we put K1, 5, and 6 together, but with just fifth and sixth using the main staircase at the front of the building. We're not gonna have them go to the back and use the other hallway, because then they're crossing with the kinder and first graders. So we'll watch that, but we're gonna really try and utilize our fifth and sixth graders as mentors and leaders, and so it could even be we have hall monitors. We put kids on hall duty, and we can see how that goes. I don't know how that will go, but we don't have it in there yet. And then of course at arrival we have our duty staff, and then we have our collaboration meetings. If it's your day, you're in the collaboration room, and then if you're not, you're standing outside your door at 7:35 greeting students. So I think that one's pretty straightforward. Do you have any questions on it?
So no one but the people eating breakfast will be in the cafeteria?
Say that again?
No one but the people eating breakfast or the students eating breakfast will
Right,
actually
they'll
stay in
pass
the.
through, yeah. Now, I know some campuses, the kids who aren't eating breakfast and just waiting to go to class, no, because they're going right to class, so never mind, yeah, just kids eating breakfast will be in the cafeteria.
This is a staff question. When do the doors usually open? Like for
Usually custodial gets there between 6:30 and probably 6:30,
Okay.
I think.
We might want to, it's probably gonna be dependent a lot on buses, but we might want to be thinking about a procedure for the kiddos who are arriving late or
Mhm, yeah.
and we get a lot of car riders that have to come through those circumstances.
Are you talking about for kids who eat breakfast?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, are we gonna allow them to take it back to
do have ELT for everybody first, that we did talk, I thought we had talked to foundations about just having them stay and eat if they could, like, and just showing them on quickly so we don't have food going upstairs.
Because if you watch that pest control
The pest
video.
control video. No food in the classroom.
No food in the classrooms.
Well, that's not real world, but.
So wasted 30 minutes, sorry.
And the other question I
Yeah.
had was about like visuals, if this is our procedure, would you like some visuals that support that for the students, like, on the stairs, there's a single file line on the right side, and their hand is on the handrail?
Yeah.
I think, couldn't you champ it? If we're doing champs, could you not make some champ signs to post and specify it, make it
You
special
can,
for each?
and it can be like for the foundation side of it, just like the hallway procedures, so, we can have hallway procedures posted, we can post, what kids should be what kids should be using what staircase, bathroom procedures, stairway procedures, cause that's gonna be a new one.
Maybe
for us.
when you said bathroom, in the arrival, we probably need to put in, they're not stopping at the bathroom on their way, they need to go to their classroom and then be dismissed back to the bathroom.
Is their grade assigned back?
Yes, so that they're not all
I would be happy to
in the same
draft
bathroom
something.
together.
I was gonna say, that was an issue last year even, because we'd say, no, go to your classroom. No, she tells us to go before we get there, you know?
Uh-huh.
You send
So at
me
least
exactly
everybody's on the same page
Same
of-
picture of what that would look like the.
Like going for specials, or going in specials, or not going in specials at all.
We just had some bathroom issues.
Especially if they went
Because
to
they
the
were all-
wrong one,
Yeah,
you're not
but
accountable
part
for
of
that.
it is they're taking their
Who did
stuff
what?
in the bathroom with them, which is gross.
We can do that video now.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, that's.
But then that way they don't end up, your first graders don't jump into a bathroom with the sixth graders and the,
Very true.
Same thing for dismissal too, go straight to your dismissal area and not stop at the restroom first. Hanging out in there and miss the class.
So we're wanting some signage for what grade level can go to that bathroom?
Possibly, yeah,
I think
we'll have
it
to look at
sounds
that.
Signs until we're in and
Yeah.
see like
Yeah.
what is gonna,
Yeah.
cause stuff maybe.
And could you not, I'm
Because
just
the bathrooms
thinking,
upstairs shouldn't
could
have
you
anything to do with the
not lock
walls.
those bathrooms in the morning?
there's no doors.
Oh.
There's doors to the stalls, but it's when you walk up to the restroom, the sinks are outside,
Okay,
and then there's an open in there.
gotcha.
So, it's not a huge problem, I don't think, just letting, once we get the kids trained that they go to the classroom first, they put their things down, their teacher's gonna let them go to the bathroom, of course, we're always gonna have those emergencies and, they'll, take care of that, but I think it just as long as we put that in there, just remember to go to class first, and really it's so you know that they're there. They don't show back up for 30 minutes and we need to go looking for them, but if they never checked in, you don't know to look for them, so. Okay. All right, what else can we think of we need to add for, morning? Okay, so active start, and we've kind of gone back and forth on this. So, for active start right now, we did K, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6. Is that, so,
And we did that somewhat for planning, let them, like 5 and 6 could plan together if they
yeah.
needed to.
So we did Monday was K, Tuesday's first grade, Wednesday's second grade, Thursday's third and fourth grade, and Friday's fifth and sixth grade. So we can try that out, see how it works, and then if there's an issue, we just readjust. But the nice thing about having third and fourth grade together is there are only two math teachers per grade level, only 2 language arts teachers together, and then 1 science and social studies and 1 science and social studies. And so we can get some of those people together in larger larger groups, which might be kinda nice, do a little more vertical teaming, but still, it's similar enough that you guys can have, those conversations. Okay, so if we did that, then the kids, if they go to an active start, they can go right to the library. Right now, we talked about having the librarian, the technology coach, I have that in there somewhere, librarian, technology coach, behavior support liaison, and then additional staff. We can have some paraprofessional staff in there. We'll just kind of monitor it and see what the business is like in there.
Right, cause, and I keep thinking like, our numbers are smaller, you know, it's not like where I came from where the numbers are really big in each grade. I mean, we had over 200 kids in each fourth grade.
Yeah.
But, we had helpers on like the Kinder Active Start Day. If you know that there's some helpful students that
Okay.
you don't have to worry about whether they're getting and doing morning work or whatever. Maybe some of those fifth, sixth graders can go to
Okay.
the library if they get in early enough and help out with some of the younger grade levels on active start, on the pre-active start.
Like a leadership
Extra
role for
credit.
Yeah, it would be like a leadership, and it could even be something that's like, it could just be some sort of student care program or something where
Yeah.
we can just select
Just
some
buddies.
kids that, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay. So they can, and I'm sure there's other things we can do in there. They can use computers, they can read, they can play games, they can check out books. I don't think we'll do makerspace in that pre-active start time, just cause it's really, both of these segments are gonna be really short. We talked about doing announcements at 7:55. We might change that. I don't know. There's a couple of different places we can do it. We can do announcements at 7:55, we can do them at 8:25. But right now, we've got announcements at 7:55, and then they'll go to their clubs or fine arts. So then we'll do active start from 8 to 8:30. Students will go to their selected clubs. Technology will be there in there again, so we can do the Makerspace Club. And then if we get sponsors for people to do those clubs, we can do them at that time.
So the actual active start is like clubs?
Yeah, I think so. And then the good thing about doing it from 8 to 8:30, well, there's good and bad. The problem is teachers are gonna be in either their collaborative teams or ELT, or extended learning time. And so they won't be able to sponsor clubs. So it'll be a small set of clubs that we do. But we could do other clubs after school.
I'm thinking about how the students will transition
Mhm.
from the library to their active start
Mhm.
clubs, and what kind of support they're gonna need to get from A to B.
So my thought is, you've got, in the library at that time, you've got librarian, you've got the technology coach, the behavior coach, and then some paraprofessional staff. So the majority of them are gonna go down the fine arts hallway. So they can escort those kids down the fine arts hallway. And then if the technology coach, depending on how many kids are in that makerspace club, he can keep those kids in the library to do makerspace. And then the rest of them will go down to fine arts. And then for those kids that leave active start, the teachers are gonna pick them up, because those will be people leaving their collaborative team planning time. And then they'll escort them back to class from there.
And we talked about they stay with that same club or whatever they're doing for like at least 9 weeks.
Mhm.
So if you're doing the Makerspace Club, or if you're doing the running club, or whatever you're doing it for that whole 9 weeks. So it's not every week we've got first graders trying to figure out where they're going.
So will they bring them back to, I mean, this is, maybe I missed it. Will they bring them back to like the cafeteria or to the gym, like your whole class, or do you have to go like 5 different places to get your kids? Or how are you picking up your, like if you have some kids in running
Yeah.
and some in the library?
I think probably like we've done it in the past, is they'll line up in those hallways. And so if we line.
There were several factors that were used to design the master schedule this year for the new school. It's a K through 6 school, so there really are a lot of considerations because we're dealing with elementary school students and we're dealing with intermediate school students. So, for example, the first thing that the principal told me that she started with was looking at recess, 30 minutes for K through 5th, and then lunch 30 minutes K through 5th, and then lunch 30 minutes for 6th graders and recess 20 minutes for 6th graders. So that means that all of the students need those allotments daily, and then all students K through 6 need 30 minutes of PE time daily. So first fitting those in for every grade level was really important, and then also looking at maximizing instruction time, getting the necessary instruction time for reading, for math, for science, for social studies. Also, it was really important to the administration that we had an active start, which means that some students will be in clubs while other students are getting their extended learning time and the RTI services that they need, and possibly even dyslexia services early in the morning before we really even start our official instruction time. So that was a big piece of the puzzle as well. The master schedule does affect instruction in a lot of ways, and I do think that it maximizes instruction. One way that instruction is really maximized is that we've taken out all transition times. So there's no transition times between classes because teachers will naturally build in those transition times, so that way we're not wasting and having double transition times. We also don't have any like official restroom breaks, so students will just go hopefully during independent work during class. And also where students are switching classes is right across the hallway, so that also helps to maximize instruction time. We also discussed that there are a lot of paraprofessionals that are needed for things like when we are transitioning from active start, or when we're transitioning to PE or to fine arts. Also, there will be, additional staff necessary for co-teaching for SPED, and also for pullouts for RTI, and also just to push in for RTI, as well as just, the general education teachers. We also discussed the possibility that because second grade is so small, we might actually use a second grade allotment for, another grade level. Determining class sizes. I'm a special ed teacher, and I know that I will have about 6 students in my classes. As far as general education, I know that they normally try to keep it around 20 students. It could be more, it could be less, but I know that that is really important to keep that ratio low to really maximize instruction. As far as the basic step-by-step process, like I said, it was really important for the administration that they started with lunch and recess. Working that in for K through 6 I know was a challenge, and then moving on to PE and fine arts. There are some things that are different at a K through 6 school. For example, band teachers will only teach 5th and 6th grade, so then the rest of the day they will be doing different music things with the K through 4th graders. And then there's only one art teacher, so figuring out that looks really different. And the way that they figured that out was that students will have an hour of fine arts time. They'll have fine arts and PE time combined. They'll go 30 minutes to PE, and then they'll switch and go to either a music or an art class, and then that will be teachers' planning time. Also, like I said, they also tried to figure out active start right away too, a way to build that in. And then also looking at all the students who require special education services, dyslexia services, RTI was another thing that they needed to figure out right away. And also figuring out, who the teams were to be switching from math to reading to social studies to science was also a big part of that process. Class times and facilities, like I mentioned, for example, the band teacher will only teach within 6th grade, and then he'll teach basic music classes from kindergarten through 4th grade. So the 5th and 6th graders need to go to band like one after the other so that they can get out all the instruments, and then those can go away for the day so they don't have to get them out, put them back, get them out, put them back. So that was one thing for like the music classrooms. For the gym, it's always a consideration trying to get active, times for students to be active throughout the day. So we don't want students to have recess and then immediately go to PE. So we want students to have a good chunk of instruction time and then have a brain break, and then have a good chunk of instruction time and then have another brain break. So that was definitely a consideration. As far as the cafeteria, we realized that, we're going to have one group of students at lunch, one group of students go to recess first and then switch. So half the students will have recess first because we do need to get K through 6 through for lunch. And then we are also really looking at the pre-K schedule because there are 2 different groups of children that need to get in, get lunch, get recess, and then leave, and then the next group will come in. So that was also a consideration. The focus is definitely primarily on maximizing student learning outcomes, especially because this is a new school. We're starting this master schedule from scratch. That is our primary focus, and we can kind of tweak things as we go to make sure that that continues to be the primary focus. The process definitely allows for teacher collaboration, especially with Active Start. What will happen is some teachers will be on duty in the morning, some teachers will have clubs in the morning, and then other teachers will be in their collaborative planning time with their team. And so that's like a built-in thing in our weekly schedule, that we have our team time to plan and to collaborate, and I think that's really good and important. And I love that teachers don't have to make time to come before school or to stay after school on their own time to meet collaboratively, that's just an expectation and that's just a part of our week, so that we can be planning together. I think that the policies and procedures definitely protect quality instruction time for teachers and students and really maximize student learning. A few examples of this is that, like I stated previously, there are no transitions built into the schedule. There will be no bells ringing throughout the day. This means that if classes start at 9 o'clock, the second class starts at 9 o'clock, then teachers are expected to wrap up at 8:58 and give students 2 minutes to clean up and get to the next class, and then the next class would go in, and by the time they get everything out for the next class, start at 9:02. So basically 2 minutes on either end to really protect that quality instruction time. Another thing that I really like is that the expectation for all students is to be on level 0 in the hallway. So that means when students are coming in from recess, they're expected to be at a 0 so they're not disrupting the learning environment around them. Or when students are walking to PE, they are also expected to be on a level 0. So again, they're not disrupting the learning that's going on around them. We also discussed cafeteria procedures and how it will be an expectation that students are at a voice level 2 so that the classrooms that are surrounding the cafeteria will not be disrupted. I think another thing that's really protecting the quality instruction time of teachers is that we're being given adequate planning time so that when it's our instruction time, we're not trying to multitask. We're really fully focused because we've had that planning time allocated in our day. So in addition to Active Start, where teachers will be given time to collaborate with their teammates once a week, we are also given 1 hour of planning time. When students get their half hour of PE or they get their half hour of fine arts, teachers are then given their hour of planning time each day. So 60 minutes to plan ahead, and this is more time than I've been given at other schools, so I'm really looking forward to this. I really think that this activity was very helpful for me because, like I said, this is a new school, and so I kind of get to know what the master schedule is going to look like before I even arrive, before everyone knows what that's going to look like. I got to sit down with the principal and the assistant principal, who I'm really looking forward to working with. I felt like they were very knowledgeable about the master schedule, about giving me tips about how when that's my role, what that will look like and what I should focus on and how I should start. And, you know, even just the advice of looking at other similar schools' master schedules before starting, I thought was really great advice. As far as what I would change, I would really like to be able to sit in on the initial meeting instead of you know, sitting in on the next meeting. I think that would be really helpful to sit in on the initial meeting to actually see the process myself. But sitting in on the second foundations meeting was really helpful. I think the most surprising information was just how much time that it's taken, how many revisions it's taken, and knowing that school starts in August and it's not even completely finalized because they are just getting their special education numbers, they are just getting their RTI numbers, they are not even sure 100% of the exact numbers of all of the students. And so of course the master schedule will be continually revised until it's what we want it to be. So I think that was surprising, is just how much time that it actually takes. I think that this definitely will transform me as a school administrator because I'm aware of the challenges and the time required to create the master schedule before going in. It's kind of given me an inside look into what this process looks like, and I'm really thankful for the opportunity.